Welcome in to the Illini Inquirer Podcast. It's Jeremy Werner and Derek Piper. Let's switch to basketball. We've been really football heavy on this podcast as training camp starts opening up. But Derek, we got a lot of basketball to talk about, and I know people are really excited. And watching Kasparas Jakucionis over the weekend, I think they get even more excited about what this season could be. We'll talk about 2025 recruiting as there was an official visitor on campus, though he could be 2024. We'll dive into that with Spencer Ahrens. We'll talk about the rest of the class of 2025 and a conversation you had with Tyler Underwood that I found really, really interesting. But first of all, are you saving up for 2028 Big Ten tournament in Las Vegas for men's basketball? You getting ready to you got to put that coffers out there, Derek, and get ready to play some blackjack in Vegas.
I do, yeah. That's going to be a lot of fun. Certainly a place we've enjoyed during the years. The UNLV game way back when, front end of Brad's tenure. I remember that. And then obviously
McCoy, right?
Yeah, Brandon McCoy for UNLV. I think that was a good game. Maybe Trent Frazier's first spark of showing what he was going to be. So kind of taking the reins there as a freshman. So not a great time for Illinois on the season, and they lost that game. But we enjoyed ourselves, and then definitely out there for the Continental Tire main event and hitting stadium swim and whatnot. So we know how to do Vegas, and if you get all the Big Ten people there, I'm imagining that would be a heck of a time. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, listen, you have to have a Western outpost now. Like, I get it. I love Indianapolis. I think it's the best place to do it. I love the city of Chicago. Over at the United Center, it's kind of this weird 3 miles from downtown. You don't feel like you're actually in Chicago, and it doesn't feel like a big event. Indy, it's centrally located. It's easy to navigate. Bars and restaurants right there. So I love it in Indy, and selfishly, it's an easy drive for us, right? But if they're going to do it somewhere in the West, it makes sense to do it in Vegas because, man, we saw Illinois fans travel there. And compared to like last year at Minneapolis, like they were fortunate. Wisconsin went pretty far because they're close. Nebraska won a game and played against Illinois. They aren't too far, but man, it wasn't that well attended like that. And that's Minneapolis. So if you're gonna do it in Portland and Seattle, I like those cities. It's just their outposts. LA's tough to get around and just not easily to navigate. So I feel like if Vegas wants to be the Western outpost for the Big Ten, I'm all about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you put the Big Ten tournament there, obviously, and
People
you'll get that being a destination. So I feel like it'll be well attended. They've had games out there, just kind of whether it's the Continental Tire or a couple of one-off games. I think that did Purdue play there last year, or Wisconsin had one. So people have wanted to get there, know that it's a destination for their fan bases, go out there and have a good time. So, yeah, that's put me on board for that. Seattle would be fun. Like that.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to go to Seattle.
Portland's a great basketball city too.
Yeah.
Like the Moda Center is pretty good. We just asked Myers Leonard about that. Like those are good cities. And I wouldn't mind if they go out there because I like traveling to those, but if they want to get fans and they want to get excitement, it's Vegas, man. Like it's a draw in itself. And any excuse to get to Vegas in early March, like people are going to, especially us in the Midwest and Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, Minnesota, like, yeah, you're going to find a way to get there.
Yeah. And if you're a fan, I'm not saying it would be cheap, but if you wanted to like stay until the opening weekend of the NCAA tournament, you want to double dip. Now that's not something that we're going to be able to do, especially covering Brad teams that are going to the dance here. But I've always wanted to do a first weekend of the NCAA tournament. Obviously, I think covering this team, we're not going to be able to do that. Maybe that's a retirement thing, but if you're Lauren Tate, you don't retire. So how does that work? But anyways, yeah, I've heard that's a blast, but I think it'd be awesome for the Big Ten tournament to see a number of different teams. It's always a great experience. And obviously just Vegas being Vegas, that night of celebration for Illini fans after they beat UCLA, I would imagine that there'd be an opportunity for some fan bases that are excited to go mingle and trash talk in the Sin City as well.
I was going to say, Illinois probably will not make the tournament at some point, but it's hard to figure out when that will be when Brad Underwood is recruiting like he is. And let's get into that because, boy, when they added this guy, I was excited, Derek, but I tried to keep my expectations in check. But watching him more and more, and then you hear the buzz out of UB and you hear Jonathan Gavoni and what NBA scouts think of this kid. Kasparas Jakucionis just went off in the FIBA U18 Eurobasket. Now, there was some turnovers, which are going to happen with him, but in one of the most talented pools of, young talent in the world, he has another phenomenal tournament, 21.6 points per game, 48% shooting, 31% from three, go along with 5.5 assists, 4.5 rebounds, and 1.5 steals. And then he ended this week with a huge bang. Going up against Nolan Traore, who's one of the top 5 NBA draft prospects, and boy, is he good. Bulls, be bad. Be really bad, because this draft class is loaded. I love Traore, obviously Cooper Flagg, the kids at Rutgers. But Jakucionis had 37 points, 15 for 29 from the field, dished out 7 assists. I watched that game last night, Derek. Just went toe-to-toe with Traore, who had 29 points and 11 assists. Lithuania didn't win a lot of games. Nojas Udrusitis, who's going to Iowa State, looks like their second best player. Not a ridiculously talented team, but Jakucionis showed off again. With what you were able to watch, what stands out to you about what he's doing at this international stage?
Yeah, I think when you get that lasting impression too, the final game and knowing it was a high level clash against Traore and the fact, like you said, I mean, Traore is a projected top 5 pick. You look at him on the ESPN mock with Gavoni, and he's going number 4 right now. And you can make an argument. I know Igor Dimon's in there as well. But if you're talking this draft class, and you're talking about the international market, it may be the 2 best playmakers in the backcourt. I think at least 2 of the 3 best, I think, when you look at it, that are out there in this market, in this draft class. So that's an exciting thought for Illini fans to know you're getting one of those, and for him to play like that against a France team, and really just, that's a country that is churning out a lot of talent right now. That was a squad. I know that listening to some of their stuff, they're disappointed they weren't playing for a gold medal or whatever whatever the championship was of the Eurobasket, but that's a game that was a high level competition. To have Kasparas go out there and show that he can score it at a high clip. We know he can do both. Like, he can be a shot maker at a high level, but also be that distributor. And I love that in that final game, he cut down some on the turnovers. He had 7 assists, only 3 turnovers in that game. Like you mentioned, you see other portions of that tournament, and he's an aggressive playmaker. He's a guy that's going to put the ball in harm's way at times, and you're going to try to just have the balance lean towards the positive, where some of those kind of aggressive gunslinger passes are going to get picked off or what have you, but he's going to make people around him better. He's going to be able to throw just passes and see things that other point guards aren't going to be able to, both in the half court, where in the pick and roll, he does a great job of throwing over the top of the defense to the roll guy, or just seeing cutters, seeing guys on spot up opportunities. And then in transition, I think, as we'll talk about with Tyler and what he's discussing, and just the pace they want to have. I mean, the pitch aheads, the things that can get the ball down the floor and get the ball in people's hands to have opportunity to score it. I think he just takes pressure off of other people because he's willing to take on that role. So I think that it was just further seeing what he can do with the ball in his hands. I know that Illinois wants him to be essentially their primary playmaker. I'm not saying Kylan Boswell's not going to have chances to do it, especially I think in transition. Kylan's shown that he can put a lot of tempo on the ball and push it up there. But in the half court in particular, I think they want KJ to run a lot of things through him. There will be some growing pains. There will be some turnovers. There'll be some games where he does have 5 turnovers, and that's something you're just going to have to live with. But you're also talking about an 18-year-old that you can coach up and be able to work with him on that. So on the whole, you compare his stat lines to like Hugo Gonzalez, kind of very similar. And Hugo's a projected top 10, 15 pick out of Spain that he went up against. Hugo's about 21 points a game, 7 rebounds. He's a bigger wing, but in terms of efficiency on shot making, like, Kasparas was better than him. Nolan Traore had a lot of 11 assists per game. Like you mentioned, he's a bad dude as a dimer, but Kasparas is kind of deservingly to be in that same realm with those guys. There were some mixed bag moments for him, but on the whole, to have him finish like that was a big deal, and fans deserve to be excited. They should be.
Yeah, listen, I'm going to mention this name, and you're going to go, "Oh, wait." But there's like Andre Curbelo to him in the fact that he is equal parts exhilarating and at times he will frustrate you. Except the difference is, Derek, he's 6'5", 200 pounds, and he can score at all three levels, right? So there will be games where I think he will be frustrating and have those things. But the playmaking, processing, the passing, it is top notch. And in a 6'5", 200-pound package of, he just turned 18 in late May, but he plays the game like he's way more mature than that. So to have that, the way he navigates, ball screen offense, like we could talk about booty ball. This is not a team that should be doing as much booty ball this year when you have a playmaker like Jakucionis. And I agree with you, Derek. This is the best playmaker on the team. Like I know he's a freshman. I know I'm hyping him up, but this is a different level of playmaker that Illinois, didn't have last year at that point guard position. We thought Curbelo would have been that. We've seen Ayo Dosunmu and the way he operates in that. But he can do it at all three levels. And the way France blitzed him, and he made the right decisions. I know there's other games he didn't handle that as well, but not letting that go into a couple games more where he's turning it over 6 times. Like I thought he handled that incredibly well, and then he just took over the game at times. So in these ball screens, I think Tomislav Visic, Ben Hammerkaus, Merez Johnson, Kerry Booth, these guys are going to get so many good looks. And then the guys that are the second or third pass sitting in the corner, if you're Trey White or if you're Hammerkaus or you're Kylan Boswell, you're going to get a lot of open shots because Jakucionis just finds a way to usually get good shots for himself or for others. And if you go one-on-one or make a defensive mistake, he's going to read it. And he can finish around the basket. So he's really a pretty good shooter. He can be streaky and he can get high volume at times. But when he gets hot, Derek, he could take over. Like he deked out Traore a couple of times. And I was like, whoa, like it's NBA level kind of playmaking, step backs, side steps into shots. Like he can shoot off the bounce and shoot it well. His mid-range is really good. And he's not an elite athlete, but he's got that size to fend people off and finish around the rim, unlike a Curbelo or a Trent Frazier. So, and then he gets to the free throw line. And you mentioned it. He can really push it in transition, which is going to fit in very well with Brad Underwood, Tyler Underwood, and what they do here, given what Shannon and Ayo Dosunmu did. So, yeah, I agree with you. There's going to be downtimes. He's 18 years old. He's learning what he can and can't do still at the highest level, but his peak is one of the best freshman in the country, like one of the best freshmen in a loaded Big Ten freshman class. This kid for me is an offensive player that translates right away. Like what he's showing at the international stage, it translates to me into being one of the best offensive players on a really good team.
I agree with all that. Yeah, I think it's been trending here as we've learned more about him, as we've watched what he's done late in the Spain tour, playing over there for Barcelona. Obviously, the game he had against Igor and Hugo, and then hearing some of the oven stuff, and then now this. I'm comfortable where we're going a little bit more and more. It feels like all in on him, like this year being maybe Illinois' best player and being that primary playmaker and all those type of things that you're talking about. So yeah, like you mentioned with Traore, like he's a guy that can bait you into that ball screen and step it back out and deny that screen and step back three. And maybe not the most like wiggle off the bounce, but just has a great control about him and has the ability to just do whatever he wants, play at his own pace and those type of things. It was kind of like, they're different players. Marcus Damask was one of those guys you just couldn't speed him up. And that's something that I feel like that's the same thing with Jakucionis for the most part. Now there were times where he got pressured with the ball and maybe didn't make a great decision, threw it into traffic, those type of things. I think it's kind of that balance between trying to figure out, maybe some higher level talent around him. Like on the whole, when you talk about what Illinois is going to have with weapons, like that can take some pressure off of him, no doubt. Now you do step up into college, you get high level athleticism you're going to face on a night to night basis, especially in the Big Ten, especially with the loaded schedule. There's going to be some guys that can really get after him, and those defenses and ones that especially have some veterans to them will try to anticipate what he's going to do. But that's the thing where his court vision is high level, like you said, beyond his years, and you're gonna live with the give and take. I think, if you're Illinois, or maybe you do turn it over more than you'd like, or just more than what they did last year. But uh, the payoff for that can be the things that he sees, the assists, and just I think the growth pattern of a freshman, 18 years old. Like, it might be on the front end of this year, there will be more of those turnovers, more of those growing pains, and then later in the year you'll see him really round into form and cut down on some of those. Like, that was, to use your Curbelo example, which I think is very fair. That was Curbelo's second half of his freshman year. He really was able to cut down on some of those mistakes and just be far more consistent with the ball. So I think too, one thing I noticed, I think it was the Slovenia game, some of the late game stuff, I think is going to be really interesting for Illinois, where they want to go with the ball. Some of the plays, because I think in the France game, it was a tight game. They ended up losing, but Kasparas wanted the ball, was willing to go out there and make some tough shots. Slovenia, I think that he at one time picked up the dribble too soon and didn't get off a quality shot, and some of the closing stuff was dicey for him. So again, for a freshman, I think that'll be interesting to see how that just plays itself out for Illinois. Will Kylan be somebody that you'd want as another option out there? And I love, if I'm an Illini fan, that you can put Kasparas in an action and just, it doesn't have to be him. It can be other guys that he can open things up for. So that's going to be all very interesting to evaluate as we go forward.
Yeah, and there's passes sometimes he has an unbelievable pass and his teammate can't finish it. Like, he's going to be around more talent at Illinois. So those assist numbers can go up. But the other part is, like, I mean, this guy plays a ton of minutes because he was by far the best player on Lithuania, and he should be able to rest a little bit more. And one of those things is he doesn't have to bring the ball up every time against pressure. Like, Ty Rodgers can handle that. Of course, Kylan Boswell or Dre Gibbs-Allhorn. There's going to be more guys that can kind of handle some of those duties. Not a strong defender. He's not getting brought over here to guard people. Like, that's not why Illinois is so excited about Kasparas Jakucionis. He does have size. He does get into passing lanes and get steals, but navigating ball screens is not like a strength of his. He's not the quickest guy. I just envision him in the Marcus Damask role defensively, chase some shooters, and try to use your size, rebound, because when he rebounds, he can really push it in transition. He is a plus rebounder. But yeah, like, that's why it's great you have Kylan Boswell and Dre Gibbs-Allhorn, is those guys are the head of the defense. Kasparas is not that. Like, teams are going to attack him if he's in that role, in my opinion.
Definitely. Yeah. He is not the most agile in terms of defensively. And I do think people will try to pinpoint him at times. That's why you want Kylan to attack the ball like he's going to. And yeah, when Dre's out there, same thing. He uses athleticism to really pressure the ball and stay in front of guys. I think it's also why you want you hope a real rim protector at 7'1". Thomas Lavavisic and Mrez on the back end too can be somebody that really helps. And if you do get beat and burned, that guy can slide in and challenge a shot at the rim. So I would think that he's somebody that will guard, off-ball shooters, guys, as a secondary playmaker. You want, fighting, like you said, through ball screens. You want that to be Kylan. You want that to be DGL. He will be exploited at times at that end, but again, if the offense is as good as it can be, it will be a trade that you win, as it was with Damask last year.
The only other Curbelo comp I would throw out there is he does the Luka palms up a lot, which Curbelo did a lot. He lets referees know when he thinks they're wrong. So just be ready for it. Illinois fans, I would definitely say that. All right, I want to take a minute to tell you about Home Field Apparel, because they are the premium collegiate apparel brand, and they're based in nearby Indianapolis. Home Field sent me a few shirts, and what I love about them is, of course, they have incredibly comfortable, well-fitting shirts, but they also have officially licensed apparel with vintage college designs. And they have more than 180 plus available colleges, including, yes, your Illinois Fighting Illini. They have great gear for the upcoming football season. So for the warm weather games, check out their Script Illini t-shirt, the Orange Ringer tee, the vintage Oski Wawa helmet, or for the fall chillier games, check out the Script Illini hoodie, the Flying Illini hoodie, the Flying Illini quarter zip. And if they're still available, you might want to check out homefieldapparel.com for this. Check out their Script Bomber jacket. It is awesome. Also, don't miss their Can't Miss Kickoff 2024 campaign. So Homefield is giving away these special football boxes, and these platinum VIP boxes include 3 never-before-seen items from your school that are not available anywhere else. They're curated so fans have new gear to wear all season long, suitable for all weather conditions. And these platinum boxes also include other exclusive items, including a new hat or ringer, a VIP koozie, and a 2024 Platinum Pass, which guarantees 20% off and early access to your school's football releases through the 2024 season. The football boxes are available on August 9th, so these will sell out quick, so go check them out. Go to homefieldapparel.com to check out their great selection of Illini gear and use code Illini24, that's all capitals, Illini24 for 15% off. That's Illini24 for 15% off at homefieldapparel.com. Obviously, we did our projected stat leaders, and we had him number 1 in points and assists. I mean, that's our my expectation now is something like that, just because the usage he'll have, the free throws he's going to get. He's total confidence, man. Like he's a baller. So again, expect him to lead in turnovers, expect some bad games at times as freshmen will have. But my expectations are for him to be one of the best freshmen in a conference that includes Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, 2 projected top 5 or at least top 10 draft picks. I think Kasparas is that level. I'm all aboard the hype train with him, Derek. I've tried to be cautious, but I've thrown that journalistic skepticism aside. I just think objectively, this guy is ready for this. He has shown at the international stage. I think he is ready to be one of the best playmakers on a good Big Ten team. Am I going too far?
No, I don't think so. I've used they're different players. I've used the comp before. I think he can have a Jalen Hood-Schifino type year, and especially when you look, if you dive into the kind of the guts of that game log for him, it really was middle of that return to Big Ten play, January and on. He was one of the best guards really in the country, especially when you look at that Purdue game. So I think that's possible for Kasparas. Early in the year, Hood-Schifino had some struggles, some up and down nature. Like you've mentioned, Kasparas is a better shooter than Hood-Schifino. Now we'll see overall like what the efficiency is once you get into that season and that those type of things. So, but postseason wise, I mean, he was the freshman of the year. Now, when you have Dylan Harper, you have Ace Bailey, that will be a challenge to win that. But kind of on a just the all conference teams, like the coaches had him as a third team, the media had him as a second team. If that was Kasparas this year, I would not be surprised.
Agreed.
So I think that's something that he's certainly capable of doing. I think Kylan's steadiness, if he can do that, will be really, really important because there will be some roller coaster nature, I think, with Kasparas. I think that if Kylan can be somebody that looks like they've played 3 years of college basketball going on this year, maybe at moments it's just more consistent with maybe his 3-point shooting, whatever it might be, because I think there will be some up and down nature with Kasparas, turnovers wise, and just adjusting to a new situation and new things. Because everything that Kylan's going to see this year, he's seen before, where that's going to be a little bit different for KJ.
Yeah, I love the pairing. And it kind of reminds me of freshman year Ayo Dosunmu with a sophomore Trent Frazier, right? Like where you had this guy who kind of proven himself a little bit already. Kylan has not proven himself yet as an all-conference player, but has proven himself as a starter. I think we saw Trent as a freshman had this star power and had some experience. And early on in Ayo's year, I mean, Trent was the star player. Right. And then he kind of gave way to Ayo as the season went along and was a great teammate about it, but just did things that helped Ayo. I kind of can see a similar, kind of skill set between those two different sides. And I think that's great. I think it's perfect for Kasparas to have that guy that, hey, if he doesn't have it that night, you got another guy who could play that role, but also can play off him really well. Kasparas has the size, the shot making of, creation, but Kylan can be a dead-eye shooter. He can be a really good defender and also can be a good secondary creator as well. And he can play point guard. He's done it most of his life. So that's huge. Like having Kylan Boswell is huge for Kasparas and for Illinois.
It should be for sure. Yeah. I think that both those guys are two that when they get the ball and deep in the backcourt, will push it, and those guys can play off of each other in transition. Both guys are plus shooters. So there's certainly that. I know that the staff is continuing to try to work with Kylan to advance his playmaking, to advance his ability to make good decisions on the ball. And I think that's something that, again, if he can be more solid. I do think I've said it many times. I think KJ is going to get more reps as far as that goes. But whatever it looks like, I think Kylan taking over as maybe the lead dog defensively can help alleviate some things for KJ for sure. And just having the poise of somebody that's now an upperclassman is going to be important. I'm with you. I think KJ is going to be fearless. He's going to go out there and he's not going to be afraid. He's seen high level competition. He's got a lot of confidence about him, and you're going to see some swagger. But yeah, I think that's important for a guy like that, for a guy like Trey White, for a guy like Ty Rodgers, guys that have been around the block in college to just be that presence around some of these new guys. And obviously KJ is one of those very talented ones. Same thing with Will Riley as well.
Io's freshman year is not a crazy kind of baseline, is it? I mean, 13.8 points, 4 rebounds, 3.3 assists. I expect Kasparas to actually be better than that assist-wise. Turnovers I expect to be up, though. Iowa was 2.3. Frazier averaged 13.7 that year, shot 40% from 3. They don't have as much – those guys didn't have as much talent around them as Kasparas and Kylan Boswell will have. But that's not a crazy – I mean, the points sounds about right. The assists, again, up, but –
rebounds, too. I mean, this guy's putting up rebound numbers.
Yeah. So it's not a terrible baseline. That's a heck of a compliment to Kasparas Jakucionis. But Derek, this kind of feeds into your conversation with Tyler Underwood, which I thought was great. That the offense is going to be different this year, but just how it evolves and how they figure this thing out is going to be fun. Number one, because of all the offensive talent you have, but it is going to be different, right? Like they don't have Marcus Damask, but they do have a guy like Jakucionis. They have different kind of pieces. So what stood out about your conversation with basically offensive coordinator Tyler Underwood?
Yeah, like you said, I think that for as good as Booty Ball was to them last year with Marcus Damask, they're not just going to force it and say, all right, we have guys with positional size, guys that can do it in Humrickhouse and Trey White, that we're just going to give that another heavy dose and play that way. They're going to use their guards. They're going to use their on-ball playmakers to run a lot of actions to make this more of a fast-paced, high-tempo guard-oriented offense, which we've seen in the past, like you said, with Io, Curbelo, Trent Frazier. We've seen those type of things. So wanting Kasparas to be somebody that breaks defenses down, that opens things up for other guys, Kylan to be able to do some of that, Will Riley to be able to do some of that. They look at Will Riley more than just a scorer. They think that, especially what he's shown, and it was part in the EYBL too. I noticed that when I saw him. I thought he was somebody that handled it well for a wing and could get into the lane and have defenses collapse and be able to find guys. Somebody that we'll talk about too, that he set up a lot here coming up, that just took an official visit to Champaign. But yeah, I think that's something that I think that with Brad and obviously Tyler now having a big hand in the offensive game planning and schematics, they've been flexible. They've been willing to play to their roster. And I think that's one of the things this summer in particular they really loved evaluating, was just different ways to score it, different ways to attack. And just kind of the emphasis, it seems like, is pace, three-point shooting, offensive rebounding. Those are really key characteristics they want out of this team. But yeah, putting the ball in the hands of their guards and letting those guys kind of be the initiators of this offense. But to have the ability to say, all right, if we got a smaller matchup on a Humrickhouse or a Trey White, we can go in that direction. We can throw them in a mid-post ISO, and just having all those options, like you mentioned, you said the word there. Tyler said it. It's fun, but it is a challenge because we've got to navigate. What's the most efficient way for us to score it? We got to rep that. We got to get identities and roles established. So I think part of the summer was really just letting guys go out there and be free and play and get used to each other. And as they go into the fall, they'll really try to start to mold that identity and have guys understand, this is how we're going to try to attack and score.
What gives me confidence about the staff, besides their ability just to get talent, right, is their ability to say, this is what we need to do to win. Not that this is what I run, this is what we're going to run, and the players got to get used to it. No, they figure out like, okay, this is our best way, most efficient way of scoring. And last year they figured it out that Booty Ball, not with Ty Rodgers, who they plan to do it with, but this Marcus Damask kid can really score efficiently this way and helps get everybody else involved. If Trey White or Ty Rodgers or Ben Humrickhouse can be that, and that's the most efficient way, but if they're not as good at it, and they're better running ball screens with, I should mention this kid more often, Will Riley, 5-star recruit, and Kasparas Jakucionis and Kylan Boswell and all these guys. That's how we will run offense, because we have some stretch bigs and Tomislav Ivicic and Kerry Booth and Ben Hummerkaus. Like, they're probably more well-equipped to run some of that stuff. Like last year, Coleman Hawkins might have been better with a guy like Kasparas offensively, right? Like in that pick and pop. But Marcus, they were, as an offense, more efficient doing it. So that's what gives me confidence in an Underwood staff compared to some of the other staffs with a lot of talent in the Big Ten. So that's good. I think it's going to be fun. It is a challenge, Derek, because you have so many options, right? Like that's the difference, is like you kind of knew who your offensive guys were this year. You have so many offensive guys. So it's going to be fascinating. I wish we all got to watch what these practices were like, because I just think that process of what it's going to look like is fascinating. And even early in the season, I think you're going to see some adjustments, and what they do in January might be different from what they do in November.
That's been something that has been proven, over the last handful of seasons, that Brad's been willing to make pivots and be willing to just adjust and adapt to what's working and how guys show. Like you mentioned there, that the mask they knew was a good mid-post player, but really as they decided, all right, let's see what Marcus looks like in booty ball. And obviously he thrived, and it unlocked so many different things and opened up with Coleman and Quincy to play on the perimeter and just the spacing, and just that roster really complemented itself so well last year. And I think that they're hopeful. And I think on paper, and as we kind of just look at what this team could be, I think there are good fits. Tomislav being a guy that can stretch it, play some pick and pop. And I like the ability for Kasparas to come off that screen and see different things and hit that, maybe throw back to Tomislav, or hit Merez on a rim run and those type of things too. And of course, you've got a lot of talent on the wings as well. So they're going to evaluate all of that, see how the chemistry comes along. And that's kind of the interesting part for me too, is just like, and I think for a lot of people thinking about this team, is like so much talent, so many options, so new. Like 10 new guys. Like, where are they going to stand in the efficiency rankings? Can they be another top 10 offense? On paper, like talent-wise, they could be, but also,
I mean, here's my thing. Like, I don't expect last year. Like top 5. Right. It's kind of like Illinois football's defense last year. I did not expect them to be top 10 again. It's just that group was special. That year was special. Schedule helped them out too. But top 25, I think, is realistic in the country. You got to be better defensively, though, right? And that's where the rim protection. You hope Kylan Boswell at the top of that defense. Ty Rodgers guarding wings. So yeah, there's a little bit, like, probably going to give up a little bit offensively because you're younger. You're going to have more mistakes. But this year defensively, you just got to be better. You were so bad. Like, especially January, February was so bad. And that's part of the March run, was they started to guard a little bit. And it's amazing what happens when you have Terrence Shannon with a team that can defend a little bit. And Marcus Damask, you're going to score enough points to outscore him if you just defend a little bit.
They did. Yeah, you said it right there. In the tournament, postseason play, they started to guard some, and that helped a lot.
But here's another take I had with Kasparas. This kid might need some rest. Like, he has played a lot of basketball, Derek. But you want to get him back and get him working with his team to gel and all those things. But I just don't think this is a guy that needs to be doing a lot of conditioning right now. Like, the wear and tear on him is pretty high. I know he's 18 years old. He's played basketball all his life, but you need him in February and March not to be worn out. So it's another thing I was thinking about, because you got to balance that with, this kid needs some reps with his teammates.
No, that's a good point, because he played with Barcelona really deep into May. He played all the way through late May and then came over for a few weeks, which I commend him for. He didn't necessarily have to do that for Illinois, to know that he was going to, at the back end of the summer, back late in July, play in this Eurobasket tournament, that he wanted to come over, get acclimated, have a couple weeks. He was literally on campus for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then he leaves and goes back to Lithuania to train with his team and get ready for the Eurobasket. So, like you mentioned, that's a great point. He has played a ton of basketball. I'm sure that Brad and company will take things probably just in general with the team rather easy. I think on the front end, they don't get here till, mid to late August to come back. And, but there is that kind of push and pull of we need reps, we need chemistry to really continue to advance here to get where we want to go. But at the same time, we don't want to wear him out, especially that guy. So maybe a little bit of load management this fall isn't a bad idea. But
I trust Fletch, so
yeah, no doubt.
Hey guys, fall is right around the corner. That means kids back at school. That means the schedules get a little busier, and that's why there's no better time to check out Factor. Fuel up for all these busy days with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for the fall with a great menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. And Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. So make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. And you can crush your wellness goals with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. Make your day delicious, too. From breakfast to dessert, stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. And you get to keep your kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. So enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well balanced. So head to factormeals.com/Illini50 and use code Illini50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code Illini50 at factormeals.com/Illini50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. All right, Derek, let's get into recruiting here a little bit before we get out of here, because Illinois did just host another Canadian. Dustin Ford crawled so that Illinois could run with the Canadian pipeline. Spencer Ahrens, 2025, 4-star composite prospect, 6'9", stretch forward, has skill, but he could reclassify potentially in the class of 2024. Just had him on campus for an official visit, and our crystal balls are free so people can see that Derek Piper has put a crystal ball pick in for Illinois. Is this Canadian pipeline going, Derek? What do you think of Spencer Ahrens, the fit?
I think it's a great fit. I think that as you look at his game and what Illinois likes to do of spacing the floor, having just versatile pieces offensively, he's somebody that makes a lot of sense. Standing there between, 6'8", 6'9", legit stretch 4 he can play some mid-post game. He can step out and shoot the three. You can use him in ball screens as a pick and pop guy, a good passer. If you want to put him out on the top of the key and let him do some dribble handoff stuff and make some decisions on some cutters and those type of things. So someone that while they watched a lot of UPlay Canada over there in May because Will Riley was doing his thing and had 40-plus points over there in Indy, like Spencer Ahrens was somebody that they were familiar with. Chester Frazier actually was the first high major coach to offer him a scholarship. You go all the way back to December of 2022 when Illinois first got in there. Now, I know that Spencer kind of re-announced an offer from Illinois because it's now Orlando recruiting him, and there was a little bit of a gap there for the Illini, but someone who was a team that he was familiar with. Obviously, when I talked to him over there at Peach Jam, he's like, it's really cool that Will's there, and talked about the program and the development they have, the style of play that he really likes. So I think that's kind of where it lines up, where Illinois has that spacing, that ability to let some bigger skilled players play to their strengths, not kind of get pigeonholed and, okay, you're a 4, you got to play on the block and you got to be an awesome rebounder and those type of things. And then I think when you look at Benham Rickhouse being gone after this year, it's something that, Kerry Booth's going to be a big piece if he becomes what they think he's going to be as a stretch 4, but there's some opportunity behind that to come in and have some chances for some playing time. So yes, he's going to be 18 in October. That's kind of on a normal track record for a senior, but we can talk about this with expanded rosters and just, I think it's been there in the past, but it'll be more of a potential focal point is maybe bringing guys in to develop and for a year, maybe even redshirt again. Hey, that could be a thing again for Illinois.
Yeah, because Derek, we're going to get to a thinning out of the transfer portal. There's no more COVID guys after this year. I mean, maybe there's 1 or 2 that are like a 6th-year medical redshirt or something like that, but that's going to thin out this portal a little bit. I mean, the portal is still going to be hugely important, but you're also going to have that and the expansion to 15 scholarships in men's basketball. And while Illinois hadn't been filling 13 for most of these years, if you can get guys to buy in like Jason Jackson or Spencer Ahrens, if Ahrens wants to enroll early knowing that, hey, reclassify, I'm going to develop for a year, but I'm going to develop at a college program, get the strength and conditioning with Adam Fletcher. And then, in a year or two, I can be a big part of this. And for Illinois, if there's guys you like, that's like, I wonder what this guy could be in 1 or 2 years. Maybe now you can actually get him instead of waiting for 3 years into the transfer portal. Like, we know Illinois liked a certain bespectacled player who's now in Missouri, or was in the Missouri Valley, and now is at SLU. Like, maybe you can take a guy like that and see what he is in 2 years rather than playing somewhere else and hoping to get him on the rebound. I'm just fascinated by that. Are developmental prospects back in college basketball?
They could be, for sure. There's always the risk you're developing him for someone else.
Right.
Potentially, like Sincere Harris last year. Now, obviously, there was a little bit of a unique situation with Chester leaving, and that would have been interesting to see if he would have stuck around had Chester stayed, obviously. But certainly, yeah, I think, and that's where the reclass potential comes into play. And Spencer, in the past, I know you go back to the spring, he had talked about the ability to potentially reclass. Now, admittedly, I don't know his academic situation right now. Is it going to be somewhere where he's positioned to come in for this upcoming semester? Would it be a mid-year type of thing? If he is going to reclass, he doesn't say he's going to. I know Illinois and him have discussed it. So if you get that to be the move, I think you bring him in and redshirt him, have him just acclimate with Fletch, work on his body, work on learning the system, and to be ready then to have 4 full years that upcoming season. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And Illinois, from a resources standpoint, to develop his body, to work on his game, why not get there maybe a year early and work with your boy Will Riley and those type of things. So I think from a fit standpoint, to go back to it, and you look at some of his recruitment, hasn't really been bubbling up with huge pushes for him as far as what I can tell and what's been said publicly by him here recently. He has a handful of high major offers. Like, he's got Arizona State, Missouri, Penn State. I know Xavier offered him, I think, back in the spring. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what he does next. I just feel like with what Illinois has in terms of fit, in terms of the kind of how they pushed for him recently, I like their chances to get him.
So 2025, obviously Jeremiah Fears was a part of that. We thought for a moment, maybe, well, we never really thought Will Riley would be in the class of 2025. What do you kind of see in that class, Derek? Like, what's the goal? And what do you think, Illinois? Is there anybody else we should be paying attention to, in the class of 2025?
Yeah, they definitely want help at guard. We saw that when they were trying to obviously make a huge push for Jasper Johnson that fell short. We talked about Caden Boozer and their attempts there. We'll see if they can get a visit scheduled. That's something that over the next couple of weeks, I think, will be really interesting to watch, who, as they trim down their list, schedule their official visit tour. Are you in? Or are you out? Are you going to get a look, or is it going to be something that you just fall short of? So can they get Caden to come to Champaign and check it out? That will be interesting. Michael Brown is another guy. If I know we haven't talked about him maybe as much as Caden. 5-star, top 10 player in the country. Somebody that, recruiting wise, it's been, I think, of the top level players in this class, maybe it's been a little quieter, a little bit more open. I don't think he hasn't trimmed things down yet. He's been very willing to still kind of listen to some new suitors, like Kentucky and Louisville just offered in June. I know new staff's there for both those programs, so that's probably part of it. But they're just coming in. I know that he wants to visit there. And Illinois, I don't know when they officially offered. Like Orlando Antigua had a previous in there, but they Zoomed him, similar with Caden Boozer back in July. And they're in the mix there and talking about a visit as well. So Alabama's been maybe one of the more longer established suitors, and how that plays out. Can they take Jasper Johnson, who there's some buzz there for that, and Michael Brown? That will be interesting. But Michael is a super talented scoring guard who can also distribute. You know, he led Team USA. He played with Merez on that Team USA U18 over there at the Merit Cup and had 5+ assists a game. So he can do it all really. And it's taking big swings at guard. It's trying to get a wing or two. And then I think somebody like a Spencer Ahrens. It's hard to sell fives right now because of Thomas Law, because of Merez. It's not really a pressing need, but maybe another stretch 4 type is something they're interested in.
It feels like it's been a while since we had like a busy fall official visits there.
I know.
Because Merez was committed for so long, but it just takes me back to the early days of Illini Inquirer with Jalen Brunson and all these guys taking official visits. And this is the biggest part of recruiting. It's just kind of interesting to focus on recruiting classes again, because I know, listen, it wasn't that far along. We're talking about the Jaden Epps and all these guys, or Brandon Pajimski and all the but it's just the last couple of years it's been so transfer, now international. But it feels like 2025 we're kind of getting back into I don't want to say a norm, but a little bit normal of a recruiting class in the prep ranks.
It does. Yeah, those throwback days are fun. Like they certainly, obviously, when you go through the Brunson and Evans, you don't connect. That was disappointing. But and look, the portal's been great to Illinois. International looks very promising. Obviously with Kasparas and what can happen in the future. But yeah, it is a little bit of a return to the ability to bring in some of these high school guys. And of course, you want to have the chance to have a Michael Brown on campus, to have a Caden Boozer on campus. And that would feel like a big deal. That would be one of those weekends where you try to see if our board has some eyes out there on campus or at the OHOP and those type of deals. I remember the boards when John Gross is here and the kids drinking orange juice. That's a good sign type of thing. Those are fun. So there's the potential for that. On the wing note, like Amari Evans is another guy that Illinois has been in on top 100 wing. Was the defensive player of the year in the overtime elite league. I think that'll be interesting to see if they can get a visit there. He's already got 4 officials scheduled. Can Illinois be added to that mix? Someone that's going to take an official, Brandon Lee, plays up there in New Jersey, the Patrick School, same school as Georgie Bashanishvili. Puerto Rican native, played on Team Puerto Rico in the AmeriCup. Obviously,
get the Caribbean feel back with Orlando Antigua, man.
Very connected down there, and he's somebody I think Illinois is in the driver's seat there with him. Third in the EYBL in the regular season in scoring, 23 points a game, which is certainly a big deal. Efficiency-wise, needs to make shots at a more efficient clip. He took a lot of shots, really had the ultimate green light. Had some games where he made 5-6 threes and really stood out. Other times, he had some clunkers where he took 13 shots and makes 2, those type of things. So, but Orlando was known as dad for a long time. His dad actually coached him when Orlando was playing professionally down in Puerto Rico. So 4-star wing, guard, wing, however you want to call it, kind of a bigger guard at 6'4", and somebody that will visit here probably in the next few weeks.
Awesome. Derek Piper, you're the goods. You got anything to add before we get out of here?
No, yeah. It's ready for some football. I'm ready for football. I'm getting excited for college football for sure. Trying to put some bugs in the ears. Not that I'm going to be the one to make this happen, but I could really use a Kansas weekend. It's a 6 p.m. kick.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get maybe an open practice or open workeout or something like that. Like,
big weekend. Good. I mean, that's a huge weekend.
So we'll see if it happens.
Yeah, let's keep pushing that. We'll keep mentioning that almost every week until the Kansas game, because it's a huge football game. I think there's going to be excitement coming into that game. It's a chance for Illinois football to grab the fan base and say, hey, show up to more games this year and believe in what we're doing here. But for basketball, you might take advantage of that. And open practice at State Farm. You'll get a couple thousand people in there, man.
No doubt. No, yeah. I mean, give the people, have it at 10 a.m. You can even do it noon.
Yeah, just do a nooner.
Plenty of time to get back to the lots. Give people plenty to talk about as they're enjoying their beverages and their food.
Yeah. And can I bring this up? I would rather, people bring up Midnight Madness. Why Illinois doesn't do that? Listen, I know there's a lot of show. If you do it like Kansas, you can do it well. You got a big time musical artist to show up. That's great. But I'd rather just have an open exhibition game or an open scrimmage. I'd rather see them play basketball, right, than a dunk contest. I'm sorry, we've done everything. We've done everything with the dunk contest. Let's actually just let them play basketball. That's what I want to see.
I'm with you. Yeah. If you just said you don't have to get fancy with it, whether it's Midnight Madness or just an open practice, like we're going to play 5-on-5. Great.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people would show up.
I don't need Brad Underwood coming into the stadium on like a motorcycle or like doing the sting, like rappel down from the arena. It'd be kind of fun with Brad, but just have him bringing in a Pizza Hut box or something like that.
Yeah,
let's go. Hey, winner gets the Pizza Hut. Like something like that. Like simple. That's very Brad Underwood. Just, hey, let's roll out a ball and play.
I like that. I did think if there was going to be a dunk contest, now I mentioned this on the radio, if somebody wore a Hunter Dickinson jersey and like say Will Riley then dunks on that said person, that's probably a 50 easy. Like that, a little bit of creativity like that. I think a 3-point contest would be fun.
That'd be more fun with this group or skills comp. Yeah.
A lot more of a ability to have more people participate. So I do think, and I've said it in the past, I think if they did have a Midnight Madness, it could do well. I think the interest would be there. But certainly you want to have it be entertaining and those type of things. But
you tell this fan base right now that Illinois basketball is going to do some athletic things on a court in September, they're going to show up.
Yeah, right.
Like
Exactly.
they'll show up. Ty Rogers dunk contest winner. Is that where we're going?
Yeah. I like that.
Dre
would be interesting. I like the Dre call. Will would be interesting.
Kerry Booth. It makes it look too easy, but he's as springy as anybody on the team.
Sure. Merez could do some things out there.
Yeah. It's more violent. It's like,
yeah, right.
Back in the day, Stromile Swift, if that name rings a bell for anybody.
Yeah.
That's who he reminds me of with his dunks.
He shatter the backboard. Would that be
you try. Certainly try.
Yeah.
Kid's gonna play, man. Kid's gonna play.
He is.
All right,
Derek, really good this summer.
Yeah. You're the goods, man. Appreciate it.
Always fun, man.
Thank you for everybody listening to the Illini Inquirer podcast. Give us a follow, rating, review wherever you get your podcast. Check us out on YouTube as well. Hit that like button, subscribe to us, and hit the notifications bell. Everybody have a great day. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you next time on the Illini Inquirer podcast.